I threw out on Twitter, what's Gator Nation? What were your biggest questions coming out of spring football and the spring transfer portal period? Of course, a lot of ways to go with this one. Nick M on X mentioned his biggest question is the defense. Is it going to carry over from the second half of last season? Because that's his biggest worry. But I feel pretty confident. So, glass half empty, glass half full. I'm glad he asked this question because of all the questions that we just asked ourselves and just went over about the offense. It's really been the defense that's failed Napier in Florida most of the time. Now, at the end of last season, it can be said the defense did their part and maybe even carried the offense to a point with a limited DJ Lagway. But for the most part, it's been one of the nation's worst defenses under Napier's tenure. Even with that great stretch to end last season, still was near the bottom in the SEC in defense. But last November, after Texas, was by far the best stretch of defense in years, and it has to carry over. And there are reasons for it to continue, and there's reasons for hesitation. A ton of you right there on X, kind of going in relation to this question. Maybe besides Napier, the offensive coordinator, play caller topic, Florida's defensive line depth and a secondary that needs to get healthy, stay healthy, and improve that was probably the second most questions that were coming in. That the questions you had most about this team were the defensive line and the secondary. At corner, notwithstanding what we just discussed earlier in this episode about Dijon Johnson, just take that out of it for right now. Just act like it didn't even happen. But for, at corner, it's more get healthy and stay healthy. And for a safety, for safety, that spot is that Florida needs to, that's the spot Florida needs to improve the most. Big plays were limited down the stretch and more of a bend, don't break style of defense. But is that sustainable for an entire season? I'm not sure it is. Now, if your defensive front plays like that, you can pretty much play any type of defense you want. If your defensive front is dominating what we saw Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp do starting LSU game last year, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But there are going to be some games where you're going to have to rely on your secondary not to be in position. Be in position to make plays, not give up big plays. Jordan Castell needs to look like a third-year player. We didn't see that necessary step that we expected to see going from year one to year two. Taking all that experience he had as a freshman, you expected probably a big jump in year two. We didn't really see it. Like much of the defense was playing better down the stretch. But it's year three where we see that launch that we expected to see last year. He needs to get out to a better start than we saw last season. Bryce Thornton coming back from injury, making plays against Ole Miss late in the season. Can that tandem? And then you got the young guys, of course. But I still think for this defense to be using last November as a launching point, I still think you're going to be seeing Jordan Castell probably needs to be part of that combination, taking that next step. I mean, linebacker, we talked about it all spring, how much we like that position and how improved that position room is and how deep that position room is. You feel good there. But for you, moving up front in the depth, and we talked about it last week because we just got Brendan Bett, the defensive tackle transfer from Baylor. So we went into that to not really repeat a whole lot. It helps there. DeAndre Robinson on the way out. So you took a depth hit there. But you need your players like Makai Burrow to step up. Jamari Lyons to be healthy, of course. I like your top four. Your top four there. Caleb Banks. Throw him into that mix there too as your defensive tackle, nose tackle spots. Edge. Your hand in the dirt edge player like Tyreek Sapp. LJ McCray. Cam James. And we can name the names that we like. Those guys got to stay healthy. Tyreek Sapp needs to continue on his progression, much like Caleb Banks. Man, that's a question for a guy like Caleb Banks. Tyreek Sapp played well pretty much throughout the whole year. Caleb Banks came on in November. Can we see November Caleb Banks when Florida goes to Baton Rouge Game 3 and Miami Game 4? So for the defense, maybe more so than the offense, is to give us what we saw at the end of the year. Start that way. There's no, just because of the schedule, you have some playroom. But man, let's go see some domination against Long Island. Let's go see some domination against USF. Now, a lot of people are going to point to USF and see what they did to Bama. They pushed Bama in the last couple of years. Go ahead there, don't even make that game a question. Go set yourselves up for, all right, we feel really good about where we're going when we go to Baton Rouge. You got a lot of leadership coming back. I think as long as you're healthy up front and you got those linebackers, your front seven, your starting front seven, man, there should be a lot of good football there. And like every team's going to be asking themselves this year, because of roster construction, because of the transfer portal, are we deep enough? Defensive line is going to be, throughout the country, probably one of the hardest positions to be deep. They are a commodity. When the big names at the transfer portal, I think somebody said it in here. Marty Mann said it. It's all about the trenches on both sides of the ball. Game calling will improve. Game management will improve. Execution will improve if we can protect the quarterback and get after their quarterback. There you go, Marty. For sure, man. Absolutely. And that's what I said about the defense. That bend don't break style. Hey, look, that worked a good bit in those big games at the end of the year because Florida's front was just dominant. Dominant. You can pretty much play whatever you want to behind them. I mean, I'm sure there were guys open. We saw Ole Miss miss some deep passes down the field. But the way you were able to affect the quarterback, the way you were able to be all over Nussmeier and dart for 2 games in a row, the coverage may not be there, but if you're affecting that quarterback, like you said, get after their quarterback, they can cover a lot of mistakes. Gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. Some good-looking merch, getting ready for summertime. Summertime vibes with some of those designs there. But gatorsbreakdownmerch.com if you want to support what we do here on Gators Breakdown. If you want to support even more, get even more interaction from yourself as well, Gators Breakdown Plus.